very special guest with me right now. He actually got me into podcasting. I never thought I would be here at this particular moment today. Jay Clark is a car rental owner, accel rental group, and investor. He has a bachelor's degree in communications from Olivet Nazarene University, ONU, located in Bourbonnais, Illinois. Bourbonnais, I think, Illinois. And he has agreed to do Bourbonnais?
Yeah, Bourbonnais to be short.
And he has agreed to do a 1.5 hour interview with Kiko's Free Thinkers Forum. He lives in Chicago right now, and he's the creator of Jay Clark, REEL, Real Mindset podcast. He spends most of his time with his 2 kids and family, enjoys researching disruptive technologies, and has a passion for the advancement of lost African America. And I want to ask him about those last 2 things because I'm not going to see it. And I don't know what the hell disruptive technologies are. And I may seem crazy for that. I don't know exactly what the advancement of lost Africa in America is, but I'd love to hear about it from Jay. But let's just get started, man. You're in Chicago?
Yeah, Chicago, really in the suburbs. So I'm about 30 minutes south of the city.
Were you born and raised there?
Nah, I was born and raised in Kankakee, actually. So that's
Really?
about an hour. Yeah, that's about an hour south of the city.
Okay.
So that's my roots, you know what I'm saying? Small town, impacted by Chicago, influenced by Chicago, but landed in the middle for my first crib type of deal.
How long have you been living in Chicago itself?
Chicago land has been 2 years from me.
Okay.
So I went to college in my hometown, of course, and then right after school, went to Indianapolis for a year, moved back to my hometown for a couple years, and then ended up in the south suburbs. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to stay back in my hometown, but a lot of the opportunities that I were in, the business opportunities, my lady was in school up here, working up here, so things just made sense to stay closer to the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how would you describe like growing up for you as far as finding yourself in this difficult world and very challenging and contradictory world?
Man, you know, I grew up as a misfit. Anywho, I was a preacher kid. You know, my dad's a pastor, so that was something I had to do. I'm a Black kid in America. I'm a rebellious kid in America. So I was always a misfit, and I wasn't a very good student. So all my life, I always felt kind of out of place. So I think that naturally made me like being an underdog. I used to being an underdog. So, you know, that's why I find my foot in that. I like being under pressure. I like, you know what I'm saying, being in the fire. That's when I seen it perform at my best. I like being against the odds. So as far as just operating in the world throughout, in the free world, you know, all of that is coming into my makeup. I'm fearless, you know what I'm saying, powerful. That's one of my sayings.
I
We just
love
get
that.
through, man. Fearless, powerful, straight up.
Yes, I love that. I like the way that rhymes. I like that philosophy. And so you talked about ONU a little bit, and we'll get to that in a minute when we talk about HBCUs and just an experience at a predominantly white institution versus a historical Black college and university. And because I'm not even making this up, a lot of people will ask me, Kiko, what is that acronym? They don't even know what it means. They don't know what an HBCU is still. You know, it's kind of like the whole thing with Juneteenth, like no one knew what that was. And it's these cultural things, I think, that people take for granted that a lot of people just don't, they had never been introduced to it because they haven't had a need for it to be introduced to them, because they've been able to go along the protocol system that's already set up, you know. And so that's a problem I have with just the word university, is because when you talk about a Morgan State University, a Tennessee State University, a Jackson State University, a Clark and Atlanta University, those are the Black schools, but we don't say that when we talk about University of Illinois Chicago. Those are legitimized as automatically universities, which translates into white schools or universities, and Black schools are different than white universities. What's your whole, I guess, experience in ONU? How do you feel, and how would you segue that into how that affected your mind growing up as a kid when it came to that decision going to college?
Yeah, and I keep it a buck. I didn't know what a PWI was until I
Okay.
went to ONU. I had heard HBCU, throughout my life, but I hadn't heard the phrase PWI until I went to a PWI. So
Oh,
if you
wow.
don't know, if they don't know, PWI is a predominantly white institution. You know what I'm saying? So I had no idea of that terminology until I was directly in the environment. And something one of my close friends always reminds me of is we got to be conscious of our own echo chamber. So if the people around you aren't using that type of language terminology, it may just be so far outside of your realm that you've never heard it before. So, for example, I wouldn't be upset at a white person who never heard of HBCU. Like, that's not something that they chopping up about at Thanksgiving, you know what I'm saying, about HBCUs. But honestly, like, throughout my experience, I hate to be this way, but it seems like the HBCU versus PWI, the D1 versus D2, it all comes down to money and power at the end of the day. I support HBCUs, and I like to see, for example, our top athletes go to HBCUs, and I like that wave is starting to really come about, really starting to come to reality. Because if you really look at the history of the PWIs and the popularity that they garnish, 70s, 80s, 90s, and so forth, it was all based on Black people. It was all based on sports. The most popular schools in the country are known for what? Sports, aside from the Princetons of the world and stuff like that. But we're talking LSU, USC, University of Miami, University of Alabama, like Florida State. Look at who really built up these schools and programs to the point that they're national, spotlight type of brands at this point, not just colleges. We're talking about brands that like people look to and see as superior and this and that. But you got to look at where all that was spurred from. That wasn't spurred from people getting straight A's and necessarily even going to start businesses at a lot of these schools. This was spurred from sports. This was spurred from basketball. This was spurred from football. And as soon as they saw that the TV ratings and the media ratings in those eras of 70s, 80s, 90s, when they saw the impact that Black people had through sports and entertainment, then they started letting us in those schools. So with the reawakening these days, people getting back into HBCUs, we're bringing that glamour back to where it needs to be. Deion Sanders, what he doing at Jackson State? You know what I'm saying? That type of media attention is what we garnish, and it seems like it's actually coming back home now, which is good, which is great.
And who is Hugh Jackson's down at Grambling? And Eddie George is at Tennessee State. So it's definitely becoming the trend. And I sort of find myself in this situation now, being on the job market as a professor of foreign languages. I'm actually looking at the historically Black colleges first before I even explore the PWIs, because based on my negative experiences that I've had at UT Knoxville, University of Tennessee Knoxville, Middle Tennessee State University was a lot different from me. I got my first 2 degrees at Middle Tennessee State University, and it was integrated enough to where I could find myself, and I felt like I could be comfortable within my own skin all the time, and I could discuss anything politically and it not have ramifications on my development. I felt like at UT it was different. I felt like if I said the wrong shit, that it would have ramifications on my career at UT as a PhD student and a master's student. So I feel like we have to navigate those things a little bit more, especially when you're socially conscious and when your ideas aren't necessarily mainstream. I feel like you do have to tiptoe more, because the university is a hierarchy. At the end of the day, it's a structure. It's a political structure. Yeah. And if you don't fall in line with that political structure, I feel like you can face issues. That's what I feel. I don't know how you feel about that.
It's very similar to the corporate world too. And it's a thing to like, I try to challenge people, especially my age or younger, the more rebellious, because I am that, I was that. So the more rebellious people who see like, oh, these institutions don't want us there, they want to change us, we don't fit, they want us to conform. It's like, when you rewind it back, ultimately, these are their institutions. So, we can come in with the mindset of they should fit us, or they should cater to us, or we should feel more comfortable. But at the end of the day, you're walking at somebody else's house, sitting at their table and trying to set the menu. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you got to eat what they give you. It's their crib, it's their table. They dictate what goes on around there. So you either get in or get left. That's why I love to see the impact of us coming back to the HBCUs, where we have a little more control, a little more freedom to be ourselves. But if we're going to go the route of going to high school, going to the PWI, going to the most popular school in your state, going to get jobs in their industries, going to get jobs in their companies, then what can we really be upset about when things ain't going our way? I'm a big ownership, big ownership preacher, big control preacher. And not that it's about ownership, control, power, but I would rather be on that side of pursuing that than accepting what people give us and waiting at the table and wanting handouts, that type of mindset. Just had to make a choice, had to pick a lane to go with.
I guess my response to that, and I'm actually going to have Jared Ball. I don't know if you're familiar with Jared Ball. He works with Black Power Media. He is a professor of Africana Studies at Morgan State University in Baltimore.
Okay.
And he'll be on in a few weeks. And I brought you on too as a way to sort of show different sides of the whole HBCU debate, because it is becoming the thing where even non-Black people, the enrollment is really high now for HBCUs. And Jared Ball's book, I'm actually going to bring it up here because it is relevant to what we're talking about. It's called The Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power. And so it's going to kind of go into things we're talking about today. And I think you can see it from several different ways. I think my issue, I would describe myself as an anti-capitalist. And what I mean by that is, that's not to say that people can't make their money. That's not what that is. It's simply, I don't agree with the idea that money itself should dictate power. I feel like not having money shouldn't be a disqualifier of not having power. I think you can have power without money. And I think that's where influence comes into play, because our experiences contribute to that system. I mean, I don't think you can have rich people without working class people working for the rich people. And I get what you're saying. It's you have to have someone working for that system. But I guess the question is, where do we find the balance to where the people who are actually running the system, who's really running the system? Is it the worker, or is it the person who's hiring the worker? How do those workers not have any power in themselves? I guess would be my question to that. You talk about the university structure. I think about the hip hop industry. You talk a lot about the hip hop industry, and look at how it's been co-opted by white people. I mean, look at the moguls that run hip hop now, and at least commercial hip hop. I don't know about the underground scene, but what do you think about that situation where the Black people started out with this amazing cultural experience and we shared ourselves with the world, but look at how it's been commercialized into this multi-billion-dollar, multi-trillion-dollar industry under the name of Geffen or whatever, Interscope or whatever it may be.
Man, that's a lot. That's a lot to unpack. I ain't gonna lie to you. I wrote down a couple of things though. As far as you being an anti-capitalist, I would say I'm more of a capitalist, to be honest. So that might be different. That's different views we have on that. And I agree with you that money shouldn't be the ultimate source of power. And I don't believe it is, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
I think we get wrapped up in that, where money is only one of the 5 true components of power. And this is something I live by. So we're talking currency, if we're talking resources, money does fall into that category. But so does knowledge, so does relationships, so does time, so does your health. You know what I'm saying? So money is just one resource. You can accumulate a ton of money and do things with it, do great things with it, impact people with it. Relationships, I don't think I mentioned that, but you can also accumulate a ton of relationships. You can also accumulate a ton of knowledge. You can accumulate a ton of time. You can accumulate great health. And those 4 things as well can have a huge impact on yourself and your environment. So I am more of the mindset of a capitalist, but I don't believe capitalism is only based on money. It's also based on your knowledge, your relationships, your time, the other resources that you can garnish. You know what I'm saying? So capitalism is real, but the type of resources that you pull from is just a big impact they can make. Now, as far as the rap industry is another way. At the top, it is controlled by the money, and they control a lot of what we see. You know, I don't have any type of firm evidence on this, but this is just what I've seen throughout the years. They choose who they put on the forefront. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's almost like who's going to sign the deal to be the character that we need next. Like, I truly look at the rap industry like the WWE, man. Like for real, like these are all characters, man. And when you spoke on the underground isn't ruled by money necessarily. The underground is more ruled by relationships, you know, knowledge from a musical standpoint, lyrics, you know, impact, actual, what are you talking about? What audience are you catering to? The issues that we see with the underground, right? Especially amongst the youth, the very influential youth, the gullible youth, I would say, those people at the top who are controlling the scene, right? This both on the male side and the female side. On the male side, you got them talking about death, destruction, self-harm, self-hurt, disrespecting our women on the male side. And on the women's side, all you got is, I don't know how vulgar we can get. All we got is my P. This how P.
Kiko's Free Thinkers Forum, man. You can be, let your wings fly out.
Look, they all selling themselves on the women's side. They all selling themselves for you know what. But from the underground, where you get the issue is, you know what I'm saying? The why we had a whole episode on that. But when you see the people in the industry at the top, you know what I'm saying, being put on Front Street for this type of behavior, for this type of topic and subject matter, the people from the underground that see that think that that's the way to get to the top. But that's not the only way to get to the top. You can be authentic. You can talk about shit that matters. You can talk about real, impactful, positive, forward-thinking, you know what I'm saying, topics, or you can talk about the bullshit. You got two routes to go. And it just depends on who's going to be true to self and who's going to be gullible to the industry. Because 10 years ago, it was Nicki Minaj, and you saw let's get into it. You saw a big bisexual breakout among the women. It was Nicki Minaj back then. Nicki I don't know who was the first to get the BBLs and stuff, but Nicki was involved in that way. Now you got all the women wanting BBLs. And I don't know how many women are going to hear this, but amongst Black circles, amongst Black men, we've always loved the Black female body. We've always loved the Black woman's body. The homies not liking the BBLs. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. The BBLs get laughed at. You know what I'm saying? Like,
hey, you meant to clear some of these things up, just the terminologies because I have a lot of different audience members who may not understand.
Okay. I get you.
No, you good. I mean, we can code and stuff, but I'm just saying, there's a lot of.
I use a lot of acronyms, and that's good. I'm younger generation, but BBL, I don't even know what it stands for. What does BBL even stand for? But it's the butt surgery. It's the butt surgery. All the girls getting the butt surgery. Exactly, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. The fake booties popping up, this and that. But men don't like it. You know, the men in my group chats where all the real information happens, we're laughing at that type of stuff, man. Like,
yeah, but where does that come from? Where does the need to do that come from? What do you think that is from? Is that pressure from industry?
It's absolute pressure from the industry, and it starts with the hip hop industry, man. Like, when it comes to music, hip hop to me, and this is just my understanding of how I've seen it, hip hop to me is the industry. Rap is the art form. Hip hop is the media. That's the glamour. That's what they put out to the public and try to control narratives with. Rap is the original art form, the poetry, the music, you know what I'm saying? So the media gets a lot of people confused on what is and what isn't. You got all of these rapper girls and rapper wives getting BBL surgeries, and people think that that's popular and cool. Getting butt surgeries, it's just plastic surgery at the end of the day, but people getting all of this stuff thinking it's cool, it's hip, it's what's up. Men aren't wifing that. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, women do that. The women my age and younger or slightly older than me are getting these surgeries and really thinking that they're raising their value on the marital and dating market. That is so far from the truth, man. Like, that is so far from the truth. You're not gonna go get a fake ass, hop back on the dating scene as a completely new person and expect things to, I don't know, and it's going to be challenging for a lot of people to hear, but that's just not realistic.
But see, what I'm trying to tell, but see, that goes into my whole thing with capitalism, and I'm going to because that's this is kind of like a base of this forum, Kiko's Free Thinkers Forum. Is not to bash people who don't think like we do per se, but it's simply it's an anti-establishment network to show people that there are other possibilities. And I believe that we've been played over time, we've been played so much, and we're getting played more than ever today. I don't think you can separate capitalism from the decisions that people have to make to conform to that system. And I'm not here to say that capitalism is going to die tomorrow. I'm not saying that. Capitalism is here to stay for a long, long time, unfortunately. The version of capitalism that we have is unsustainable, in my opinion. It's unsustainable. And I think before you and I are gone out off of this earth and everyone else, I think that there's going to be an uprising that's going to do something about that. That's my personal opinion, because it's not going to keep going this way when the way homelessness is now, the way people, the gap is just widening between the class structure. That system is not sustainable, because you already see that mentality in the labor market. You can see people are tired of working shitty, menial jobs. They are. Yeah. And I don't know if that's a generational thing or what. It's not my issue with the making money thing, is that the Jay-Z type people bother me a little bit. Those kind of people bother me because it's different.
You said Jay-Z?
Jay-Z, like Hard Knock Life Jay-Z, yeah.
Okay.
Marcy Projects Jay-Z, because those kind of people, I get it. That's a concrete to the rose, to the riches story, and I commend him for that, for getting out of poverty and stuff. But I think Black people are so caught up, and people in general are too caught up in that can be me next. No, motherfucker, that is not you next. There's only going to be one Jay-Z, okay? But the problem that I have with people like that is then they tell you how to vote. Go vote every 2 years or whatever. These are the same people who have influenced their power with these same business endeavors, but where we become just more extended products of their endeavors. They're making their money, but they can only make money based on if we support them or not, for their next business venture or not. But how's that business venture helping, the poor people out? I know they do things like charitable stuff, but politically, that's a contradiction to me. You can't give money to a community and then at the same time advocate for a system that goes against that community's objectives. When you talk about just the whole system itself, the way people think, because they don't tell you that you can't think this way. They tell you you can think the way you want, but we see what happened with Kaepernick. We see what happens when you go too far and then you have everyone else that comes in line. I feel like Jay-Z is a person, he's all of a sudden become the Black business spokesperson for Black America. Just like Al Sharpton is the Black spokesperson for political Black America. Why we seem to be the only group that has a handful of motherfuckers where they seem to represent the whole group, or at least the media projects it that way and weaponizes it to where they represent the whole group of us. And that's what I guess my issue would be with Jay-Z. And it's not even Jay-Z's fault per se, it's just the way the system props him up now. And he's just visible all the time. It's about the Black power couple, him and Beyonce. But how many people can realistically be that?
Yeah, and it's the rags to riches thing. We know where Hov started at. We know where Jay-Z started at. And because of where they put him at, people see him as almost the end goal in a way. So a lot of people take rap as a means to get there, or they'll take the streets as a means to get there. Let's be honest, that's where he started at. Hov is ultimately a businessman. He is a capitalist. So when he saw that there was need for drugs and he could get access to them, he provided the drugs, whether it was right or wrong. When he saw there was a need for rap and he could provide that, he did that. When he saw there was a need for businesses and he could provide that, he did that. But it doesn't make it necessarily right. And the one spot mentality is what shoots us in the foot. And the craziest part about a lot of this, right? We tell our kids now, conscious people will tell your kids, don't get so wrapped up in playing football. Don't get so wrapped up in playing basketball. There's only a certain number of spots in the league. There's 32 NFL teams, preseason, 75 players per roster. Regular season, I believe, is 53. There's 30 NBA teams. Full roster is 15. Playing day roster is 12. That's about think 2,500 in the NFL. I can't think of the NBA number, but it's like 1,200, 1,500.
1,200, yeah.
So at least it's broad, Can we name 4,000 rappers? Can we name 5,000 rappers? Hell no. So what are we really pushing to people that there's so many people rapping, but it's a high risk, low reward business. It's a high risk, low reward adventure, opportunity. What's really the end goal of being a rapper? Are you going to be Jay-Z, or are you going to end up shot and dead in the street? Are you going to end up broke as hell? Are you going to end up in jail because you're following the bullshit that the media is putting out at the top? What's really the end goal of rap? Like, there's only 5-6 rappers that are relevant, and everyone's trying to be them. There's 5 or 6 slots that the media has put out there as these are the rappers that are on the force scene. But we got millions upon millions upon millions of Black young Americans pursuing that same dream. The numbers just don't make sense.
Yeah, I get that for sure. It's just it's a struggle that I have, because in the NBA, it's the same thing. It's these predominantly Black leagues, or at least the players are more Black, not necessarily the ownership. It's they do this shit all the time. They basically say, in a low-key way, we're a Democrat Party organization. We funnel money for the Democratic Party. And some other leagues may be, we funnel money to the Republican Party. I don't know, it may be NASCAR or whatever the hell it is. Do people not see that connection between the power structure and the product that they're watching on the television? Do they not see that connection? Because that's what
I haven't thought about that myself.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like, I like LeBron. I love LeBron James, but I don't want the motherfucker to represent me politically, because I'm not LeBron James. I'm Kiko, and you're Jay Clark. It's like, why do we put so much stock into these people when it comes to our lives? We're working class people, grinding every day. Why do we fucking care what Taylor Swift says? I have nothing fucking common with her. Why do I care what LeBron says? Why do I care what Olivia Rodrigo says? Why the fuck do I care what Ariana Grande says? Like, why do people put so much stock into what these celebrities? That's what I'm saying. It's not that they can't just listen to the music. They believe these motherfuckers politically and all that. It's like, there's like no sort of pushback. I can't hear you.
No, I was trying to phone a friend. I was trying to phone a friend. I can't think of the political figure. She's not even a politician, but she's a Black lady. She's married to a white man. And she recently went on air with Candace Owens. My friend phoned me, Candace Owens. So she recently went with DJ Academic. She did an interview with him, uncut, off the cuff, all real, all authentic. I loved it. But one of the things she spoke on that I was very passionate about during Joe Biden's run at presidency, we know what he said. If you Black, if you don't vote for me, you're not Black. We know that.
You're not Black, man, you are.
We know that bar. But this man and his administration had the audacity, a slap in the face to me and everybody who looks like me, the audacity to go grab Cardi B as a representative of the Black culture, the Black community, and did an interview with her. Cardi B, dog. So these are the type of people that we're putting on the front scene to represent our culture. There is no culture, man. If she's representing Black culture in America, there is no culture. Straight up. Like, and that goes back to the intro. That goes back to lost Blacks of Africa. Like, we are a lost community. We're a lost family in this nation. Now, you can get free. That's an individual choice. Is the whole entire community, the whole entire body of people going to one day wake up and be free and move forward progressively together? Probably not realistic, but as an individual, you have the power to take back what's yours. And that's through knowledge, understanding, research, experience, knowing where you came from, following the Most High, stand in your word, and doing the things you need to do to really get attached to the spirit. But we can't let Cardi B be the representative of Black people, yet alone Black women.
We can't let anyone be a representative. That's my point. We can't let Jay-Z or any of these people, but none of them. It's just but that's what I'm saying. why are people that weak to where they have to look up to people? Like, what makes you think that these people have credentials to tell you how to dictate your situation? And that's why I go back to, again, it's a class issue, because it's the professors that I deal with. It's like we're all in a club, and I'm in that club, but my mind is not in the club with them, because the people that they're trying to reach, they say that they're trying to reach the Black people, the LGBTQ people, the poor people. They say that in print when they publish these articles, but they're really talking to just an elite class of people in that academic space. And I feel like it's the same thing with all this stuff. We're talking about the commercialization of images. I don't think you can be relevant.
I've never heard that's so true. The commercialization of images is literally the BBL movement. I'm just put that in the pharmaceutical. The pharmaceutical, they're making a lot of money off of it. Say that much.
I don't think you can be a person that visible and be threatening to the system, and they allow you to be a part of that system. I think they have to take you out. That's why I'm skeptical of anyone. I'm even not skeptical of people like Cornel West, people who are supposed to be these civil rights giants advocates. And I know some of my listeners may be caught off guard by that, but even to the left or the right, it doesn't matter if it's Candace Owens or Cornel West or any of these people. I just think we have to question people who at a certain point get so big. And I'm saying to myself, are people really allowing them to get their voice to amplify like that?
You talking about Kanye?
No, I'm talking about Cornel West. He's a scholar, he's an activist. You know, he's advocated for Black rights for a long, long time. Yeah, think of you've heard of Angela Davis, used to be a Black Panther.
Yeah.
These kind of people now are almost tamed compared to the way they used to be back in the day when they were in the streets. But I understand they're older now. They're not going to have the same energy like they used to. But they are they're visible now, but they're accepted by the status quo now when they were shit on 30 years ago. So why are they all of a sudden accepted now by the power brokers? That's what makes me question them. It's like, because to me, if you're not a threat if they allow you to get in the system, I guess is what I'm saying. To me, the fact that Jay-Z is so big means that he's really not a threat to anything but just growing the capitalistic system more. And nobody else that's going to combat that system is really going to, I mean, he's part of it to the point where he's done his work and he's not a threat to anyone else. As long as they make their money, they're fine. But when it comes to actual power to working class people, Jay-Z's almost disconnected from that now, I feel. But I don't know. I may be completely wrong and rambling, but it's
like leading pigs to the slaughter type of deal. And I understand your viewpoint where if they're allowing him to stay in that type of power, then he's aiding what they're doing in a way.
Like, what would Tupac be like now if Tupac was still alive, I guess?
And historically, no matter how big you get as a Black man in America, as soon as you threaten what they got going on, ousted. Whether that's your power your comeback, your visibility comes back, or you may be, you know what I'm saying, Guantanamo Bay. You know what I mean? But you never know, bro. Jay-Z is I could see your mindset on that. I don't agree with it completely.
Right. I know that's your boy, like Hub, like that's your guy.
Yeah,
like,
my boy. You know what I mean?
I know. And it's not even, I have nothing personal against Jay-Z. It's more the symbolism. It's just like Obama. It's the same thing. It's not even, I don't hate Barack Obama or hate Jay-Z. I just don't like the way the image is used. And I don't know if they realize the effects that they have on people, because they're leading these people to this false sense of like empowerment when they're really not empowering anybody, I don't think.
I'm with anybody who's building their own table. I'll say that much.
Okay.
Hove has some capitalistic type of conqueror type of, you know what I'm saying, traits and characteristics. But I would rather align my mindset. This is me personally. We are all individuals. I'd rather align my mindset with a Hove than someone who's just waiting for handouts. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I got you. Okay.
I'm going to make the table for myself and my family. I'm going to have to make the table. I don't want to sit at the table because I want to make the rules. You know what I'm saying? I want to control the agenda. I want things to be in my favor for my people and my family and my community. That I truly do. So anything I can do to establish that, I tend to align with. You know what I'm saying? And you asked the question, how can we let the media dictate, you know what I'm saying, what we do, how we feel? It's because we don't know who the hell we are, you know? And that's where the freedom comes from. And that's the individual choice. When you get the knowledge and the understanding of who you are, this media can't tell you to go get a damn surgery to make your ass bigger. It can't tell you to go rap like this, go talk about destruction and killing people in your community, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't click. It's not going to resonate with you when you can stand on something, when you have principles. Like, if we let the media tell us exactly how to think, what to do, how to speak to our own people, it's because we don't know how ourselves. And that's where it starts. It starts with the knowledge, the education, the realization. And to be alive, to wake up, you have to realize at some point that you're asleep and dead. You know, you have to really, really intake, like, look yourself in the mirror. Like, you have to really consider, are you alive? Are you making choices in life? Are you making decisions for yourself and for your family? Or are you truly being impacted by everything around you? And not just the media, We talking about your job. We talking about the people around you affecting your emotions. We talking about, keep it a buck, someone's need to pursue a degree, a title, a position in politics. Like, I'm a person who I never even spoke about this publicly, but I've had groups from my hometown, people in politics in my hometown wanted me to take that step into that realm. I've had aldermen from the town I live in, from the neighborhood I live in, wanted me to take that step in politics and be more involved in that realm. And I never saw a fit for it, man. Like I said, I'm a misfit. My pops is a fraternity, you know. I've had all types of people come at me and want to attach me to certain communities and whatnot, but I just see it all as a bunch of bullshit, if I'm being honest, man. Let's keep a bunch of bullshit. Like, I'd rather be an individual and just stand on principles that I've learned from the Most High, stay in my word, not get attached to all this human galore and glitz and glamour and how you should be, how you shouldn't be. Like, I can't listen to someone who doesn't even know who they are themselves, you know? If you're influenced by the exterior, why am I going to listen to you about who I should be? You don't even know who you are, so how can you tell me who I should be? You know, I do
like that idea with the individual. See, that's the thing too, where the collective thought versus the individual thought, you have to be your own person at the end of the day. And it's a tough situation. It takes a lot of courage to find who you are as a person, especially when you come from, maybe not necessarily an encouraging environment. And I'm not saying that you come from that environment or myself. It's just, I think it's the psyche of some of the average people that we're talking about now. Is that stereotype that these people are just going with what the flow is, the new trend or whatever that is. I had some questions about the local, politics in your area and stuff. I kind of lost my train of thought. I knew I wanted to talk about before I got to the local politics area. You have, we discussed this in your podcast a few years ago about how we were both kind of outsiders, in a sense that we both agreed that this political structure that's here now with the two-party system is absolute bogus. Like, I think with me and you came to that conclusion. I'm wondering, how did you come to your conclusion? Like, how did you kind of get that thought process, from a different perspective? And I got my perspective too. How do we both come to that decision?
Yeah, the simplest phrase I can use is both wings on the same bird.
Oh.
They talk about left wing, right wing, and blue and red. Like, these all come from the same makeup, And first of all, the Declaration of Independence was written in 1776. 1776, and this is the document that we are still going off of. If a business had existed for 200 something years and they were still going off the original business plan with no innovation, what are we talking about? You know, and then as far as our social and political structure, I use this phrase all the time, but this analogy all the time. Everything that we discuss, when it's built on brittle ground, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a business, whether it's a building, a house, if it doesn't have solid foundation, eventually we know that it's going to crumble. So we are on the foundation of a document that was written in 1776 when we weren't even seen as human beings. Mm-hmm. And we're still operating off of this document. And people wonder why our mindset and our psyche is all messed up. Like, that document was not written for us. We all know this. And we're still operating under it. It's like, people are just sheeps and just like going through the flow and kind of just acting like things are okay. The USA is acting like things are okay. Like, everything's gonna be okay. We can come out of this. We can bounce back from this. Make America great again. The shit was never set up right in the first place. So, you know, there's the people who are gonna look at it and be like, oh, this is America. Everything is great. But then there's when people look at it like, yo, let's look at the reality of the situation. The shit was never set up right. We never had equality. We still don't have equality. And the gap is getting wider, you know? Yeah. The gap is just getting wider. So we got a lot of work to do, man.
We really do, man. And maybe it's just that simple. I tell you what, I wish a lot of people thought like you, Jay Clark, when it came to that, two wings on the same bird. It's just, these motherfuckers are really just fighting they're fighting just to justify, I guess, their bullshit. Like, there are no principles. I honestly, most of my friends identify with these wings. And I'm saying to myself, okay, tell me your principles. Like, what are your principles going in? And we tend to agree on some of the same stuff, but it's never consistent. Because just like what happened, I was on a friend last night with the Gaza, Israel situation, you know, Palestine. I mean, the way the Palestinians are getting bombarded just all the time. But the media is talking about Russia and Ukraine. It's just, both of these parties fund the wars. They fund the war operations. They fund the crooked pharmaceutical industry. And then they wonder why so many goddamn people were concerned. And it wasn't just MAGA Trump people worried about the VAX. People like me, a lot of Black people were worried about too, that weren't a fucking Democrat or Republican. But they make it seem like just the Trump retards were the only people who were against the VAX, and that's bullshit completely. But see, that's how people, when you get programmed to think that only a certain group of people think a certain way, that's how you get fucked and you get duped. And I'm telling people, a lot of people are against the establishment. This system, it needs some work, some serious work. The police system, this is a police state we're living under right now. And both of these parties, what did they do? They give more money to the police, they give more money to the military. And that's how I kind of came to my conclusion that these are the same two people. You know, regardless of this shit, oh, I love Black people, I hate Black people, all that shit, the culture shit is like whatever. But it's like, if you can't even agree with these four things, that tells me that both of y'all are full of shit.
Yeah, man. The political structure is screwed, man. It's messed up. And what's the most unfortunate part about the whole thing, to kind of wrap up at least the political structure, I see it falling completely apart than ever coming together. I don't, you know, things happen in nations and history, you know, as things evolve. I don't see the United States of America existing for another 100 years. I really don't. Hell no. I would say hell no. I don't think it's realistic at all. I do see some type of political upheaval, revolt type of situation where there's going to be a split. If there's 50 states in the United States in 100 years, I would be very surprised. Whether it's California seceding, Texas seceding, whether they split it up east and west, whether there's 50 individual colonies, the organized colonies of America. I don't know, but The United States of America never existed. That phrase is bullshit. The United States of America. When have all 50 states been on the same page?
You never lying. Just
bullshit.
The way this state has completely different voting rules than this one. You're right. The fucking bullshit electoral voting system, but they shame the hell out of you if you don't vote, or if you don't vote for that team. And it's not even set up universally. So why, if the whole thing seems like it's just a complete rigging charade? It's just they're going to do what they want to do anyway. It's like, does it really matter at the end of the day? Like, I
smoke screen. It's a smoke screen, man. United States of America, it's laughable. It's honestly laughable.
Who do y'all got up there now in Chicago? Is it Lightfoot? She's the mayor?
Yeah, Lightfoot.
Tell me a little bit about Chicago. I've always been conflicted about Chicago, man. My whole introduction to Chicago, I'm not even gonna lie, I've been up there about 6 times. And I think about baseball when I think of Chicago.
Interesting.
And I hate the Chicago Cubs, not because I don't like white people, but every white person that I've ever met in my life has only been a Chicago Cubs fan. I've always said to myself, God damn, don't they have the White Sox in the same city? Is it, or White Sox just the black team and the Cubs the white team? That's kind of the perception I get. Like, am I off on that?
Nah, and that's actually true. It's true. Most Cubs fans that you meet will be white folks. Most Sox fans will be black folks, and it comes from what's the word? It's a geography thing. To be realistic, the White Sox stadium is on the south side. The Cubs stadium is on the north side in Wrigleyville. You know what I'm saying? The makeup is different, and where the Cubs stadium is, Wrigleyville is a very prominent area. Upscale, you know what I'm saying? Upscale, downtown, near the lake. You know, very commercialized. Whereas the south side is where we were pushed to, and the stadium that was built there was more so probably, I don't know the specifics on it, but it probably was very cheap land, and it made sense to build it right there. So that's where kind of that split comes from. I think at least the origins of it, and over time, the Sox are in this neighborhood, the Cubs are in that neighborhood, and the fan base just grew from that.
It's just weird as hell, because I know the Cubs are big down here because they used to always show the Cubs games on WGN, and the people in Tennessee would get the Chicago WGN network. We would get that, so they will always show the Cubs games. Like, I kind of get why my friends here like the Cubs, but white people everywhere. It's like, dude, what the fuck is? I mean, those motherfuckers, they sucked for like 100 years. I'm like, you still cheering for those sorry bastards? And it's just, I always wonder, why did they care so much about the Cubs, But I guess that makes a little bit more sense geographically. Maybe it's that simple. Going to this whole notion of the South Side, though, what is the South Side of Chicago? Is it because it's portrayed one way in the news? How is it really to you from your vantage point?
That's so deep. And I didn't grow up in Chicago. I don't want to get checked by my homies. I got most of my homies are from Chicago at this point that I speak to on a daily basis. And we talk about the city, you know what I'm saying? I know the city, I'm plugged with the city, but the South Side is split up, you know what I'm saying? You got the South Side, let's say the 60s through the 90s, I say. I ain't gonna mention specific streets. Then you got the Wild Hundreds. You got the hundreds that lead up to the suburbs. So between the hundreds and the streets up until about the 60s, it's a lot of stuff going on. You know what I'm saying? Chicago is built up in pockets where you could have a neighborhood, a block that's very nice, very well kept. You know what I'm saying? Nice, renovated, upkept properties. They may have been gentrified over the last 20 years or so, but you have those pockets and streets that are nice. You might go 2 blocks over and things are a little rougher over there. There might be a couple shootings over there every other week or so. So when you in Chicago, you just have to know where you are. Like, not just the neighborhood you are, but the street you on. The media maybe overplays it, but I can't act like there's not violence in Chicago. I used to try to kind of play, I'll say God's advocate. I don't like to use the words devil's advocate. Shout out 19 Keys, but I play God's advocate in the past where it's like, oh, there's not as much violence in Chicago as portrayed. But truthfully, realistically, there is violence in Chicago, because there's a lack of resources in certain areas, neighborhoods, and communities. When you strip away high schools from a neighborhood, and kids got to travel 20 minutes to go to school. Historically in Chicago, where you're closing down entire schools, public schools, and kids had to travel to go to school, some kids ain't gonna make it, you know? Some kids ain't gonna make it to school and they're gonna resort to the street. So my thing with these type of conversations is, yes, there's violence, there's turmoil, even in my hometown, man, even in Kankakee, which is at this point, baby Chicago. Like, and when I say baby Chicago, there's people from my hometown who pursue that type of image, you know, pursue that type of street galore image. And I'm not saying it in a positive way. I'm saying we're baby Chicago, where we're a small pocket of people, where there's just a ton of violence and hate and turmoil. But in the same breath, when you strip away resources from a people, when there's no, you know, path to the future, there's no positive outlook on where they can go. They don't have the things in their echo chamber that they can build and make their own table. They have to accept what they're given. People just it's a certain click. It's like the mind is so powerful, man. When you feel like the world is against you and you ain't got no resources, no way to go forward, you turn into an animal. You act like a savage, you know? You're no different than a wolf in the wild, or a wolf in the wild, a lion in the wild, or a deer in the wild, a deer in headlights, where you don't even know what to do. You just running around with nervous energy and anxiety, with cars flashing in the headlights, figuratively. You know what I'm saying? That you really resort to a wild animal, and it's the wild at that point. You either a deer, you a lion, you know what I'm saying? You a rat, you a snake. You're taking away real consciousness from people and turning them into animals. And then we can only behave like that.
And what do you think is the biggest contributor to that, this, I guess, demoralizing and to the demise of people?
It's the idea that you can't succeed ultimately. It's the fear that you can't succeed in ultimately this capitalist society. It's the fear of missing out, the fear of being left out, that there's only one spot, that there's only one Jay-Z, there's only one LeBron James. If I can't be him, then I have to resort to the bullshit. It's like, we got to just open up our mind. And let me circle back to the intro again. Something I wrote in the little bio, I spoke about disruptive industries. And that's something I love to research, just future industries that are going to be impacted. We can even talk about, I don't want to go too deep into it, but even like robots, man. Like robots are real. People want to joke about the shit like, oh, there's people being replaced in
artificial intelligence
jobs, AI and stuff like that. But this stuff is real. People are going to have robots in their houses like cars. Like, I use Tesla, for example, because we're in the robot realm. When Teslas first came out, you know, you saw them in spots. You'll see them here, you'll see them there, you'll see them on TV, maybe in a movie. But now you start to see more and more and more and more, to the point where Tesla is starting to be a very normal car. You know, it's a very normal thing in the auto industry. That's going to be the same with robots.
I mean, hell, the cars are the robots, aren't they?
Realistically, I mean, people are going to be taking out loans to buy these robots that can improve their life. You know, if a robot is washing your dishes, you know what I'm saying? I know this is far-fetched for some people, but if a robot is washing your dishes, folding your clothes, and vacuuming your floor, that's going to start to come into reality. So when I speak of disruptive industries, though, and I know that's far-fetched when we get all the way to AI, all the way to robots, but I wanted to take it there to show people what's really happening. There's nothing wrong with barbershops. I love my barber. I got two that's solid. I've had two people cut my hair the last 8 years. I won't go away from them. I love my barbershops. I love my beauty salons. I love my chicken spots. I love my natural oils and all that stuff. But when we go into opportunity, when we go into business, when we go to make the table, we have to think bigger. We have to think bigger. If we're really going to start making an impact and being free, and this is about making tables, that's just all I can think of. That's all I can speak on myself, is about making businesses where we're not sitting and begging for acceptance and likeness and please be nice to me, please do things my way. When we're starting to make these tables, we just have to think bigger, you know, open up our minds to different industries, different types of businesses, different locations of businesses. You don't always have to open in the hood. When you're pursuing your own individual freedom, I'm from Kankakee. You know, I will do business in Kankakee. I would love to do business in Kankakee. I would love to have real estate in Kankakee, but I can also have real estate in Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. There's other ways to get involved to set your own self free so you can help impact your community further. You don't have to do it the way that you've always been taught to do it. Just think a little broader. Like, there's so many opportunities out here. And this all relates to disrupting industries. There's so many opportunities out here. And we just got to stop getting wrapped up in what we've seen in the past and just get a little more creative, you know, just get a little more
innovative.
Creative. Yeah, definitely.
No, innovation is that seems to be the way we're headed. It's inevitable because, especially I think after the early 90s when the tech boom really took off, it's just continued ever since then. The explosion of Apple and all these multinational companies.
Furthermore, and I'm a young brother, man, and I've studied our people to a point where I'm starting to gather knowledge where I'm confidently speaking about this stuff publicly. We are 2 generations removed from, if the slave owner caught you learning, they cut your tongue out. You know what I'm saying? So it's deeper than the surface. This stuff is psychologically embedded in us, our blood. Like, we are 2 generations removed from the slave master caught you learning, they cut your tongue out. So even when you do learn something progressive, it's hard to speak on it. There's fear involved. Oh, if I say this, people might get offended. If people aren't ready to move that you're trying to impact, they may take offense to it. So it's like, even when you learn knowledge that you want to share, sometimes there's fear involved in that. Do I want to speak on that now? Do I want to speak on that on this platform? Who am I going to offend with this type of notion and behavior? Because in the past, when you spoke on certain things, there was recommendation to it. There was punishment to it, you know? So the slave owner caught you learning, they cut your tongue out. Like, that shouldn't be taken lightly. That's still in our blood. That's still in our psyche. And we got to shake that, like, immediately.
No, it shouldn't be accepted. I want to get back to that notion about us being 2 or 3 generations removed from servitude, or are we still continuing the servitude just in different ways? I was thinking about this censorship age that we're in too now. I think the internet has become, me personally, I believe that the internet is a public utility. I think it's a tool for everybody. If you have enough people on it, I mean, it seems like everyone these days has internet access, and it's almost like it's the speaker's corner, you know, because they have a speaker's corner in the UK where people can just go up and debate and have conversations with people in an open square. Well, I feel like the internet is that open square now. Everyone has something to say on the internet now, it seems like. I do get the people who say that these are private companies, though. They can tell you what to say, they can tell you what not to say. But I mean, it's getting out of control now, man. Like, they took down one of my videos yesterday. You know, I knew you saw my post on there.
I seen it, yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, I just started this podcast 6 weeks ago. Like, I'm not a threat, you know. I don't think I am. So, but they're doing that to a lot of these independent channels, to where you have to codify words a certain way. You can't say things just out and about. And I'm just like, why is that? Like, why is that such a big deal? You know, why can't people express themselves? And I don't know how you feel about that.
It's the table thing, man. I ain't gonna lie. Like, when I saw your post, I was like, well, what do you think I said? It is their platform. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I feel it because I've been impacted by that through social media channels where I'll speak on something rash or I'll make a post rash, and they're picking up on this stuff. Like, they're tracking our audio. When you upload a video to YouTube, they're tracking your audio for words and taking inscriptions and seeing what you're saying. So they don't want you to talk about certain stuff. So they'll simply won't allow you to get the spotlight to do so. until you make your own platform, until you have your own audio platform where you can put out the information and send that directly to your audience. We have to abide by the rules, and there's terms and conditions that we agree to that nobody reads typically, that give them the right to do so. So unless we're speaking on our own platform, we can't really, you know what I'm saying, be upset with the ramifications that we face. That's truly how I feel, and I'm a victim of it too, where I don't even post on Facebook.
Self-censorship.
I don't even post on Facebook anymore because it's like my thoughts, and even that this is live on Facebook right now, my thoughts don't align with a majority of the people on Facebook, or even maybe they do, but they don't align with the algorithm of Facebook, where the information that I speak on isn't allowed to be shared on that platform. And I know that. I don't even necessarily promote my podcast on Facebook because I know that the topics I discuss don't align with what Facebook wants people to see. And the people who are stuck on Facebook unconsciously align with that mindset anywho. Like if Facebook tells you to vote for so-and-so, more than likely you're going to vote for so-and-so. People on Facebook ask for politics. The first one you see is the one that's going to be stuck in your head. So it's like, it's their platform. I could never be upset or even surprised at being removed because I know how I am, and I know that I'm disaligned with what they got going on.
Same here. Yeah, I feel you, man. I get that. It's just I just think it's I think it's a thin line. Because considering that YouTube and Google are basically the same company, YouTube has contracts with the government, and
which makes them the government.
Which scary, but see that, which is again, there's no stopping it. Once that happens, once that merge happens, the consequences could be catastrophic, and you know, hopefully they don't get too catastrophic, but I knew what was going to happen with that. I was shocked that video was taken down, but that's why I don't promote YouTube, because of that reason, because YouTube and Twitter are the worst. Facebook is a close third. And so that's why I know that people are fucking with Rogan with the Spotify shit, but I fuck with Spotify because at least they will tag you with the CV19 if you talk about the virus or anything. Like they will sometimes put a disclaimer up, but for the most part, they're not going to just throttle your views and your clicks and your plays.
Visibility.
But YouTube is slick fucking with everybody's visibility and stuff. Like they're taking people's streams and stuff off. And I think that's some bullshit. Like personally, like if you're gonna do it, but don't be fucking that sly about it. You know what I'm saying? But like you said, it's that platform, but they have contracts with the government, and what's public anymore, what's private anymore. It's just like, I don't know. I feel like it's just a constant moving situation. Like it's never consistent, you know? And I just need, just tell me the rules straight up, motherfucker, and I'll follow the rules, and I'll go outside of the parameters if I have to, you know, in other ways. But, you know, if you have a rule, you know, set the rule, but don't have this ambiguous community guidelines. And it's like, what the fuck is that, you know? I don't know.
Let's be real. It's like driving while black, you know. Let's say you in the neighborhood turning right, and there's a cop at the stop sign to your right. You might speed through that stop sign and not come to a full stop. You catch eye contact with him, and I'm in my head, I'm in a white neighborhood. You catch eye contact with him as a young white boy, he might let you slide by. You catch eye contact with him as a young black boy, you probably going to get pulled over. Like there's certain things that are allowed by certain people that aren't allowed by the others, you know. You might get a slap on the wrist. A slap on the wrist for a young white boy might be a night in jail for a young black boy. There's just Jamal and Jack don't get the same type of treatment.
Jamal and Jack.
It's different. It's a different setup, man. And I can only be real, bro. Only be real with it.
Man, I want to talk a little bit about Not a little bit. I want to talk. I do want to get some into your Jay Clark. You got about a half hour?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
free, man. Yeah.
I want to talk some about Jay Clark Real Mindset. I knew you said you didn't want to talk about your podcast per se, but I feel like it's my honor to be with you right now. Like, you got me into this whole space. Like, I never would have done podcasting if it wasn't for you, because and really Bruce Jackson, who's a family member of yours, like he told me that you guys weren't really in touch a whole lot, but you guys were related, blood related.
Yeah.
And that's how I got, my foot into the podcasting thing, on the cusp of the George Floyd protest and Breonna Taylor, everything else. Because I wouldn't be doing this, and maybe I wouldn't have discovered myself more. I definitely felt like this last 2.5 years, I've broken out of my shell even more than I had before. What is Jay Clark Real Mindset? What's been sort of the metamorphosis of that project? What has it become compared to what it was when it first started?
That's an awesome question. So as you know, when I actually started my podcasting journey as Undefeated Bears, it was a sports podcast. And it was, I was hype on the season that year. We had a good little roster we were formulating, and I had speaking ability. And it was something I was passionate about. So I put together a small podcast, and it had a little following, something I didn't even appreciate at the time. And I just really, I was recording on my phone. I was working 50 hours a week. I'm literally recording like as I'm driving around at work, and like stitching it together after work, just uploading, just really hobby-ish type of deal, just talking about football. But when I started Black Voice, that was actually in response to the George Floyd situation. I was emotionally impacted by that. I watched the full video. I seen just the impact that it had on myself, my community, my family. And that spurred me to speak more on the political realm, on the activist realm. Over time, I started getting challenges from people, from Black people. And it wasn't like all at once. It was just maybe once every other month, someone would say something I didn't like how it sounded. And I didn't want to be pinned to any type of political outlook, mindset, position on a topic because I was Black. I didn't want to have to.
Is that what you were getting from them?
Yeah, and I didn't want to have to represent the whole community or have individuals feel like that's what I was trying to do. The Black Voice was made as a platform to give Black people to speak originally about the impact that George Floyd had on them. And it evolved into a platform for people to speak as themselves outside of their traditional work environment. I wanted to hear from the secretary and the challenges she faces with being a Black secretary in a corporate environment. I wanted to talk to the corporate manager that's a Black corporate manager in that environment, the Black doctor, the Black dentist, the Black preacher. I wanted to talk to all of these different type of people and get their perspective on being Black in the spaces that they're in, to open up more younger Black people's minds to being in those spaces. We can still succeed in those spaces, but there's challenges that come with it. This is what they are. So that's what the Black Voice's true vision was. And maybe publicly, I never did a great job of explaining that. I didn't really know what I was doing. But over time, I just wanted to drop that. So Jay Clark Real Mindset really came out of me being my true self, my true authentic. I don't have to pin myself to this political issue or speak on this current event or have to go this way because of who I'm representing. I'm only representing myself at the end of the day. And I do hold on to, I have an impact on people around me, man. I see myself as a mentor. I'm growing as a mentor, attaching myself to higher mentors so I can do a better service to the people who are following me. And people attach to my mindset. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the best looking dude. I'm not loaded with money. My
don't say that, man. Come on, dude.
I'm saying I'm
hard on yourself, man.
I ain't no Denzel, but I do my thing. But I'm not just some public figure per se. People attaching me because of the way I think and how I express myself. So that's where the mindset portion came of it. And the reel was like really a play on words. You know, reels are popular right now in social media, but it's really the REAL. I can only be myself, authentic, true to myself. I ain't getting paid by nobody. I'm not sponsored by nobody. I don't have to speak. I'm not under a corporate umbrella anymore. You know what I'm saying? So it's just about being myself and being authentic to who I am. To some
Damn, you don't even have an anchor sponsorship?
Nah, man, not yet.
Yeah. I ran with that motherfucker, man. Once they sent that shit under the money.
The little. Oh yeah. You know that the little anchor.
But I mean, but you still independent. I mean, I still consider myself an independent podcast. Just like it's not like we have this big ass production company, running stuff with us. You talk with your brother on there too.
Yeah,
that's
oh man, and those are the dopest conversations I have. I ain't gonna lie, because I got into the podcast space before I even knew I could succeed in it or knew I could do it consistently. And being able to bring my brother on, who neither one of us are really public, you know what I'm saying? Neither one of us really like crave for that public attention or public allure. We just are at the point. We had this conversation in his office at his agency where we have so much to share and so much value to add that we have a responsibility to do so. So being able to have a platform to bring him on and have just in-depth conversations on our journey and our goals and our challenges that we overcame, like that's the dopest experience I've had in podcasts and in media. Like we haven't recorded in a couple of weeks, which is a long time for us, but those are the most impactful conversations I even have because I learned from my brother. And as little bro, for me, I'm able to share with him and he learns from me. Like that's what it's all about. And we're able to put those conversations out in the public realm on top of that. So it's just a win. It's a win-win all around. Once I get big bro on the line.
Oh yeah, man. That
sounds
win-win. Wonderful. Yeah, I've been listening to your episodes and I just love the way you guys are so casual. Like you have something with, there's a bunch of people in there with you. Like, are those just like some of your friends? You guys are like hanging out on a couch and just like chopping it up about different stuff.
You mean that's real nonsense.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, that's me and my boy JC, my boy Ruben. We actually did we were going pretty strong for about a year. My boy JC actually moved to Los Angeles. Shout out to him. He's doing this thing out there in music. But that's just JC, me and John Carr, shout out to him. We have very similar mantras where we go against the grain a lot. You know what I'm saying? We speak our mind. We don't necessarily side with the public opinion for better or worse. A lot of the time it's checking our own people like, hey, let's not throw stones at this person or let's support this person. But we like to have open dialogue on understanding it, and to outside looking in, some people might think like, oh, they always want to be right. Oh, they always want to debate this and that. But in the basis of it, we truly just want to learn from other people. We want our ideas challenged. That's why we put them out there. We don't do it to say that this is the only way to think. We do it for the backlash so we can grow and learn. You know, if we hung around people that agree with us all day, we wouldn't. There's no progress in that anywho. So with real nonsense, oh man, we got into some deep conversations. Even about Jay-Z, man. That's one of the most heated debates we had.
I have to go back and listen to that. When I know you guys talk a lot about hip hop and the industry. Yeah.
And it came from Jay-Z starting in the streets. And the big debate was, is Jay-Z a drug dealer or is he a rapper? And my stance on it was Jay-Z is a businessman.
He's a businessman.
He's a businessman, an opportunist, a capitalist, whatever you want to call him, but he's no
different than these the Pfizer people. I mean, how's he any different? I mean, how are we gonna hold that against him? You know, he's just trying to make a living, you know?
Yeah. What I always say, man, if you're not outselling Walgreens or CVS, you don't run a block. Let's be clear. If you're not outselling Walgreens in your neighborhood, you're not running the block. So man, yeah, those are great conversations though on that platform. I miss those, you know what I'm saying? But conversations like this are very similar, where we can throw out ideas. We both want to stand on what we believe in and challenge each other, you know, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I want to say that, man, I 100% support all your endeavors. I
Thank
didn't
you,
want
bro.
to come across earlier as being combative or anything. It's more so I punch up always. It's always the system itself that I sort of have issues with, but the people themselves, everyone has to find their own way. But I will say, as far as Black liberation, my views towards the end, and your views towards the end, it'll kind of come at full circle what I was getting at earlier about why I'm frustrated with those kind of people that are up top, and how I feel like if things were a different way, maybe we would see a lot more progress being made, in the Black communities when we talk about Black liberation. I wanted to touch you a little bit on your experience with Olivet Nazarene. You said that overall, would you say it was a positive experience?
Whew. It was a growing experience, and I went through some. I can put it all out there. I was suspended from Olivet. I wasn't doing what I needed to do. I was following the wrong crowd in a way, kind of doing my own thing, and I was very, very rebellious at Olivet. So in hindsight, I could have done a better job at fitting in. But what did we start this conversation as? I'm a misfit. You know what I'm saying? So Olivet, man, it was a place where they did want you to truly conform to who they were.
Mm,
And if you didn't fit who they were, they ousted you, from
mhm,
being completely honest. If you didn't fit who they were, they either physically ousted you by removing you from the school or ostracized you to the way that you felt like you didn't belong there. So people who didn't fit who they
mhm,
weren't included within the community, and the student body and the staff weren't shy to make you feel like you weren't included in the community.
mhm.
Um, when I first came in as a freshman, there were minimal Black folks, but as I grew through the school on a senior year, my 5th year there were more and more Black folks, but it was all based on a grant, and I've heard this, I've heard this from firsthand sources, third hand sources. There was a grant involved where they were giving money to underprivileged youth and communities to come to the school. Excuse me, I've been talking 24 hours straight, but
No,
they
you
were
good.
using this grant money for, individuals who couldn't necessarily get to the school, and they had a high risk of leaving, but the school got to keep the money, obviously, after the grant was paid out. So it
Mm,
seemed like they were taking these high risk on all these individuals, bringing them in waves from Chicago, from, other, underprivileged communities, wherever they were bringing them from. But they weren't fully disclosing, Kiko. They weren't fully disclosing who they were. So a lot of these kids came to the school with complete culture shock. You can't drink, you can't smoke, zero
are you
tolerance.
serious? Why is that? Is it
They're
religious?
they're Nazarene school.
Mm,
So the thing is, and when I first started to get wind of this and get wave of this, I was disgusted by what was going on, because as I grew through that school, I would see these kids come from Southside Chicago, come from certain areas in Kankakee, come from Peoria, come from Gary, wherever they were from, and they were all being brought to the school in waves, and they were completely culture shocked at the actual rules and the structure of the school. So I'm talking about zero tolerance. It's a college, but drinking, smoking, curfews for freshmen, especially, and upperclassmen too. You had to be in your room at, I think, midnight during the week and 1 o'clock on the weekend.
was
So
it segregated by sex?
it was, yeah, absolutely. No co-dorms,
God.
anything, males and females completely separate, away from each other as far as dormitories. You could not go into a woman's room. She could not come into your room. They had, what was
Wow.
it called? Open door hours or something of that nature, where there was like
Mm,
7 p.m. to 11 p.m. I think a couple days during the week, you could have the opposite sex in your room, but the door had to be open. Your feet had to
wow.
be on the floor. Like, this is what, but they didn't disclose any of this to probably 80 to 90% of the people that they were giving these grants and scholarships out to. These people were
Unbelievable.
coming to this environment, getting ostracized or physically, literally kicked out of the school because they weren't hip to what they were getting into. So My distaste with Olivet comes from that. I had my own situation where I made some wrong choices and got suspended, ended up coming back and getting my degree. And I'm thankful and blessed for that. But what they did to so many people, so many, friends, peers, that I saw go through that and get ousted out of the school, I just have a serious distaste in my mouth for it. Because that's no different than the capitalist society that we live in. Like they were looking at these kids as nothing but numbers. They knew they had to get a certain number of people to get this grant, to get this scholarship from the government or whoever the hell they were getting it from. They filled those numbers and let the kids go at the first time that they didn't align with what they believed in. So, I I definitely got a distaste in my mouth for the school. I'm thankful that I got my paperwork from them, and I put that on applications when I need to, or I'll brand shit when I need to in certain environments. But y'all know y'all wrong, if I can say that publicly.
But see, I feel like that about UT Knoxville, and I'm going to say this. I want to apologize to a lot of my friends that I went to UT with, like my colleagues especially. I've never shared this with a lot of people before, but I say that with less than a third of the people in that whole department, I actually showed the true Kiko who he was. And those people know who they are, because I've had private conversations with those people about this particular topic. I guess the code word would be, you are on the journey with me, in this PhD program. And so that's kind of the code that I have with people they had my back the whole time when I was at UT, like we did the journey together, and those people know who they are. That's all I say about that. But I got to tell you, man, it was a pretty messed up experience from a master's to the grad, only because I think the way the university sees us, and I'm talking about Black people especially, I can't speak for anybody else, this diversity word is used too much. Diversity is used too much. I just take 1,000 people, even if it's 30 Black people, that's still 970 fucking people who aren't like you visually. They don't look like you per se. And I don't want to hear this stuff about, oh, we're all the same. No, we're not. We're not all the same. Our experiences aren't the same. I don't feel the same when I'm on campus and I'm there, we're all educated. I still don't feel the same there. I'm going across the pedestrian walk there, and it's just like a sea full of white people. I'm not even lying. It's like I'm having 3 conversations with myself when I'm walking, and it's just a sea full of white people. But then it's like, I click on the front page of UT Knoxville's website, and they have a Black person, an Asian person, a Middle Eastern person. I'm like, get the fuck out of here with that shit, because when I'm on campus, it's not like that at all. And then you have the issue with, goddamn, the football team is like, they got their own university to themselves, the football team. The athletics departments have their own university. And it's just the rest of us, we're just all here doing our thing. And these motherfuckers are making the money for the university. People go through this stuff. And then just imagine being a Black football player that doesn't necessarily have those views like the rest of the university life. I don't think a lot of people consider that for a Black person in general when they're at a school like UT Knoxville that's advertised as this diverse state school, public school. It's a flagship school. Everyone goes to UT Knoxville. Big orange, bleed orange, but it's really, man, it's when you get there on campus, it's not really like that. And when you're in the foreign language department, when you're one Black person out of 200 people in a department, it's like it's 15 of y'all and it's 185 other people. It's just not, it doesn't feel comfortable. And when your politics don't align, you even feel more distance, And so what message has really been sold to you once you get to that environment? Kind of going to what you were saying.
Yeah, I have a perfect answer for that. And Olivet's mantra, Olivet's quote of this is what they say is, we believe you belong here. Now think about everything I just said. That's what they preach. We believe you belong here. And their site is the same way, where you see just the different nationalities all displayed over the site. And I would say I was a victim of it two instances my senior year as I was going out of the school. There was a big job fair convention where, I went in, I wasn't suited up, but I had my dress shirt on, nice pants, nice shoes. And I was in a very deep conversation with a gentleman from, I think it was a bank or whoever, an insurance company, whoever it was. And we were in very deep dialogue, and someone caught a picture of it, campus photography. That picture was used to advertise the next job fair. So I was on the website and on the job fair little brochure in this deep conversation, two Black men in deep conversation at that, displayed on Olivet's job fair little brochure ad. And I took a little offense to it. I'm like, y'all don't even like us like that. Second instance, I'm on stage, walking across the stage. I shook the president's hand. And I remember that moment after going through what I went through to come back into school, get my paperwork and graduate. I remember that moment. Like, I remember that handshake. I stopped, I looked at his eye, shook his hand, and it was an impactful moment for me. That picture, once again, was captured, and it was used in like the post-grad little Olivet advertisements, and it was in the yearbook. It was in the yearbook and this and that. And it was just like, I didn't have that type of experience at Olivet where I should be used in these advertisements and public, propaganda posts and all of this stuff. And it was just another just distasteful moment for me where I'm just like, damn, Olivet, man. Damn, Olivet strikes again.
Yeah, it's but see, that kind of goes into the conversation we had with Margaret Kimberly, which is episode 5, I believe. It's crazy. I don't even know what damn episodes I have now. It seems like I just keep pumping them out. But Margaret Kimberly, Black Agenda Report, we were talking about these Black faces in high places. I was saying that, I was telling her that Obama, Kamala Harris, these kind of people, this is what blackface is now. And people think it's a joke. I told you about that on the last episode we did, that I did on there on your platform, where I doubt if most of my friends even listen to it because it's too much for them to take in.
At the time.
Oh yeah, I mean, you go back and listen to that shit now, like, oh gosh, like maybe he was onto something. Man, fuck the trends. It's like, just say what's on your mind, and it's just like, honestly, dude, fuck these people. It's just, I'm tired of being used by them, the symbols, and it's just, and I think that's what you kind of realize too, even with the Black Lives Matter movement, is just, I mean, what have we gotten since George Floyd was murdered? We got some Confederate statues taken down. We got some shit wrote down on the streets. But what did Black people really get back in return? There was no police return. There was no police reform. Like, what happened after that? Substantially, I guess, from a substance standpoint, for Black people.
I think it's going to take time to see that, but I do think there was some internal, because of the trauma that we saw, like, with our face, I do think there was some internal type of movement where people decided from that point, I'm going to be free, and it's not all public, you know what I'm saying? I'm being kind of loud. Can you hear that in the background? Can you hear that in the background? Is that too loud?
No, you good. You good.
For sure. That's a good mic. But it might not be as public as I think it is so far, as the movements that we're having underground in the Black community. But man, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I think 20 years from now, it's gonna be a new landscape. And I think it's gonna be overwhelming for America to see what's actually happening right now, like within some of the Black business spaces, within some of the Black social spaces, within the HBCU community. I think it's going to be overwhelming for America to a certain point where there's going to be a revolt. I'm gonna call it what it is. The poor white man is going to start to be very uncomfortable when it's not the rap star anymore. It's not the ball player anymore that's walking around confidently, chin up, chest up, knowing who he can be. It's the Black businessman. It's the Black lawyer. It's the Black politician to a certain point. It's the Black preacher. I got aunties, I got parents, I got elders who I look up to within our community who are kind of still living in the past, are kind of still living in the fear and the mantra that we can't. But I can speak for my generation. because I'm around them and I'm connected to them and I work with them and I move with them, we are over it, man. Like, I'm 27 years old, man, and I can tell you there's people 6 years younger than me, 8 years younger than me that are teaching me paths to freedom, teaching me mindset, teaching me mental, emotional intelligence, teaching me spirituality, teaching me to not eat certain foods and to eat other certain foods. There's a true movement happening among young Black people in this country that is going to scare a lot of people. And we don't speak about it. That's why I don't necessarily promote my podcast as much as I used to, because it's like the people who are aligned on our path are going to come and do what we do and make the impact, and the ones who aren't won't. You know, it's the people who are within these spaces are almost past the point of trying to coerce people to think like us, because that's not our goal. Our goal is individual freedom, and we find the people who have those same similar goals and we move with them. So if I can sum that up, man, they talk bad about millennials, or they try to, but if I want to use that blanket term, Black millennials, Black 20-somethings, young 30-somethings, young 20-somethings, I'm telling you, man, it's some hitters out there, man. Young bulls, like I'm talking 18, 20 years old, like we're shaking the ground right now. And 20 years from now, 30 years from now, I think we're gonna see some fruits, man. And I don't think, and I go back to America not existing in 100 years, I don't think America's gonna be cool with it. And I think there's gonna be some type of revolt and some type of separation where things are gonna get interesting. Things are gonna get very interesting.
I'm glad you brought this up. I want to talk a little bit about that. We're concluding about the next 20, if that's okay with you.
For sure.
I want to talk a little bit about that. I didn't think we were going to bring the R word into this, which I always get excited when people bring this word into things, but I don't think it's a whimsical fantasy. I think it's something that's going to happen. The question is how the method of it. I don't know if it's going to be done in a civil way. I think it's almost impossible for it to be done in a civil way, especially with the way people are discouraging dialogues like this. It's going to have to be organized to the point where we are able to open dialogue. It can't be closed off. It has to be open dialogue for it to work out, I think. But we may be talking about two different types of revolutions. I think my thing is this. I can see that conflict with, because you use poor white man as a reference. My idea of a revolution would involve the poor people together in different capacities, not the same capacities. Because if you're reaching different kinds of people, you have to have different kinds of people. You can't have the same kind of person. And that's kind of what this forum is about. We try to reach, we say fuck the establishment. So how do we fuck the establishment back? We have to get different kinds of people dialoguing to attack it from different ways. We can't attack it from one angle. We have to attack it from 6 angles. Let me
rewind it too. When I say poor white man, and when I use the word poor, I'm talking mindset.
Mindset, right.
And when I say poor white man, what I'm really referring to is the Make America Great Again thumpers, the people who truly think that. And when I say poor, I'm truly talking about mindset. These are the white men who truly, truly, truly think that white people are superior. And I don't even speak on what's the phrase, white superiority, white supremacy. Right. I don't even speak on white supremacy because that gives it the power that it just, we have to think about the words we use. We talked about the United States. Those two words don't make sense. When we speak on white supremacy, that's giving them the power directly. Our tongues matter. If we say white supremacy, it means they are supreme. So when I speak of the poor white mindset, I pity them, quite honestly. I pity them. I pity any Black person, honestly, who thinks that we're the ultimate superior. I pity anyone who thinks that they're above another human being because of the color of their skin. I think that's a poor mindset to live by. So those type of people, when they see Black people, when they see young Black entrepreneurs, young Black thinkers, young Black creators start to come into their own and be true to themselves, that's going to scare the hell out of them. When they see that the young Black kid, the strong Black man is no longer fearful of their society and their way of thinking, that's going to scare the hell out of them to the point that they're going to want to revolt. I don't know in what way, but I feel like they're going to want to revolt.
See, I believe that the misfit label that we used earlier doesn't just apply to us. I believe that and I also I believe that the umbrella is a lot wider than what you're painting as far as the poor white person. I think I'm attacking the professional white class more than the MAGA Trumpers, because those are the people who I have more proximity to. Because when you talk about going up the ladder scale, are poor white Trumpers really the people who are keeping us back when we keep going up a ladder? Those are not the people I interact with.
In mindset, because when I say poor, let's completely disband poor from financial status. There's people with a poor white man's mindset who are in positions to hire people, who are in positions to make ultimate decisions. So if they automatically look at a Black candidate for a position as less than, I believe they align with that poor white mindset. And I in the future, I'll do a better job explaining.
No, you don't have to do that. No, I'm just trying to understand, because so what would that make a person like a Candace Owens? I mean, she that's what I'm saying. I mean, because you seem to have like respect.
I don't agree. I didn't go into what I think about her, but what I was referencing her was with the Cardi B situation. I respect Candace Owens because she speaks her mind. You know what I'm saying? What I say about Candace Owens is she speaks her mind. Now, it's her. Do I believe? Am I agreeing with all of her, you know, methods, terminology, etc., and the fact that she's pro-Black? But you know what I'm saying? I do have some questions about Candace Owens. I would love to interview Candace Owens. That would be amazing. But Candace Owens still, in a way, strikes me as a Jay-Z. By your, you know what I'm saying? That same type of, how is she able to speak so brashly about these things, but still remain protected in a way? And
because she's a stooge.
And she's married outside of it. It don't add up. It don't add up. I'll be honest with you. So I still have a lot of questions about Candace Owens, if I'm being completely honest. Yeah.
I talked to a candidate, and I wonder, I mean, it's not really protecting the anonymity much, but this person's running for public office currently. And we talked about a lot of deep stuff off camera. And we talked about that, the interracial versus, you know, Black love. We kind of like what you talked about in your previous rendition of Black Voice. And I was making the case that it's a mindset more so than the visuals. Like, people get too caught up in the visuals. It's like, I mean, Loving versus Virginia, 1967, made interracial marriage legal. Interracial marriage was always going to be a thing, regardless of how people feel about it. Same-sex marriage is always going to be here, regardless of how people feel about it. So it's kind of like, what are you going to do about that? Or are you just going to keep pushing forward with whatever you got going? It doesn't make, you know, me less Black because I decided to go that way, or, but I definitely understand where there's divergences of thought, because some people who think that staying all Black is the way to do it, you know, to mobilize the power. Some people think that it has to be multi-racial coalition building. Mine will be more a multi-mindset coalition with whoever wants to join it. It's like, if you down, I'm down with you. I don't give a fuck who it is. If you're for student loan cancellation of debt, I'll fucking ride with you. I don't give a fuck if you're a Nazi, if you're a Black Panther. I don't give a fuck who you are. Like, if you want to get this goal accomplished with me, let's do it together. Fuck the bullshit. You know, like that's, but that's so many different ways you can go with that. Like, I definitely get that. But I want to kind of get what you mean by Black liberation, you kind of spoke on it some. And I like the part where you talked about the young Black professional class. What do you view as far as Black liberation? What does that mean to you? And how do we get from point A to point B?
Black liberation starts with knowledge, I believe. Starts with knowledge and community, point blank. So I do want to speak on Candace Owens too. A big problem I have with her likes and her types is it's not that, and I agree with you, it's not about being all Black, but we have to be careful with those who disassociate themselves from Black, who see Black as disgust, who see Black as less than, because these are the people that are impacted by the whole mantra of America. And when Candace and her, I don't want to keep using her name, but when those types speak, when they refer to the Black culture as they, them, when they say Black people, it's not even always about the word you say, it's how you say it. When they say Black people in a distasteful type of manner, it's like, okay, you know who you're speaking of, and we know who you are portraying, even if you don't even know it yourself. So it's like when people disassociate themselves with Black people, those are the type of people that I like to watch out for, because it's like, what really are you standing on? What really are you standing on?
It's like that version of code switching. It's but see, that's what I try to tell people. Obama did the same shit, but people don't say it. Like the shit he said, if you go back to some of his interviews, and the shit that he says now, no one checks people like Obama. It's like he's untouchable. Yeah. But he says the same shit where when these people were protesting in the streets, like he'll make these comments, like he said something about the Black men, like he basically shit on the Black nuclear family. Like he made a Father's Day comment about how like it's a shame all these Black fathers aren't in their families' lives. And I'm like, why the fuck didn't somebody check this motherfucker for saying some shit like that? You know, because that would have been anybody else, they would have been checked left and right. But it's fucking Barack Obama, and it's like, oh, deaf ears. And he says this shit all the time in very slick ways, though. And he just does it in his way. But you're right, Candace Owens does. She's very like domineering, and she says this like in a condescending kind of way about Black people. I'm like, did you just hear what you said then? Like, I don't care what the intent is. It's like, it's just the way you say it.
Yeah.
Like going to what you were saying.
Yeah, and I think Black liberation involves checking people like that and not letting people get away with saying shit just because they look like us. If they're disrespecting you, check them. If it doesn't align with the truth, we have to check them. Black liberation is happening as we speak, man. I truly believe that Black liberation in America is happening to the point that America won't exist. It won't. America wasn't designed for Black liberators. It wasn't designed for free Black people. And there's going to be such a collection of people that align with similar mindsets of freedom that things are going to have to change. Things are going to have to change. Like, there's no other way. I can't see it happening any other way. When you see waves and droves of Black people choosing to be free and taking paths necessary to make that a reality, it's just going to scare some people, man. It's going to scare some people. It's going to scare Black people too. It's going to scare Black people too, because the Black people who don't want to be free are going to be just as scared as the white people who don't want us to be free. It's new information for everyone, but it's happening. So. But
see, that's what, and I agree with you that there is this massive underground movement where, and I think that this has to involve politics too. It can't just be because political mindset is psychological. It's part of the programming. And so, and I believe, like I said, this system, once people break away from it, when I see people doing that, that gives me hope. It gives me hope, but we have to keep going with it. And that's just one way. Me personally, I think that the reparations discussion has to be a part of this, because you can't talk about reparations without talking about money, without talking about education, without talking about healthcare. Anything really, when you talk about, is it something that should be pursued? And I personally think it should be pursued. Should it be the only thing? No. Reparations to me isn't a handout. You seem to also think that we acknowledge the injustices in history. So, okay, let's correct those injustices. Is it going to be corrected with just a paycheck? No. But reparations, I think, has to mean more than just money. It has to mean more than just money. I think if you present it that way, people would be more on board with it. Black people, obviously. I think, me personally, I think the initial move needs to be the government has to acknowledge the original sin, which isn't just the raping of the Native American people, but it's also the raping of the Black people. Like, I think that has to be done first. So we have to have an official apology. And then I think as an initial commitment to that cause, each Black person should get at least $25,000 just as an initial IOU. And then after that, we can talk about what programs can we put into place to help these people. And maybe reparations is something, maybe reparations is having someone with the gall and the guts of a Jay-Z that can build Black networks in those communities to where we do have mom and pop Black businesses, mom and pop banks, mom and pop business commerce, locally, where we don't even need the national, I guess, help if something happens, because we have self-sustainability there.
Yeah.
I think that would be my initial view of Black liberation, just from an economical standpoint, but also just the initial acknowledgement that, okay, the United States version of history is not the right version. We need to grow out of the fucking 1776 version of that.
Yeah, I agree with you almost wholeheartedly.
Okay.
When I said I don't see America coming, I see America splitting more realistically than it coming together. And what's the saddest part about that is that all it would take is addressing the original sin. So I agree with you 100%. There has to be a promoted press conference. We're doing this on this day to address this issue. The president is going to speak on the origins of America and how Black people came to this country and the death and destruction that we brought to that culture. That has to be addressed. And that has to be followed up with some type of compensation, advantage, reparation. That has to be followed up with that. And I was going to challenge you on that too, because a lot of people speak about reparations, but what's the real number? If we're talking financial reparation, what's the number? So 25,000, I think that's too low, if I'm being completely honest.
No, but like I said, this is just an initial, this is basically a handshake. Like, this is an agreement, like, okay, that you're even on board with the platform. This would be like, okay, I'll take you seriously if you at least commit to this.
I think the issue with that though is the number is so, the number is infinite what they owe the Black body. You know what I'm saying? Like, we should get a damn $1 million credit line per person. Like, it's infinite what they owe the Black body. So it's so hard to attach a number to it. It's my only difficulty with it.
No, I totally get it. No, and like I said, I've done interviews with John Gower, Near Dark Radio, and David Mills. He was gracious enough. Like, I talked to David Mills. He wrote a piece. He had a book that got released not too long ago about the GDP worth of Black people and how much we put into the whole slaveocracy. And I mean, basically, our worth was like as much as other countries' GDPs, combined. That's how much, we produce for this bullshit, servitude system that we went under for so many years. But there's lots of publications on this. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the contract of Black America, Ice Cube. This is more commercial though. These are more commercial examples of what we're talking about. But no, I agree. $25,000 is very low. But I guess my point is that operating within this capitalistic system that we have now, we're not even getting that commitment. The only thing that we have now that is not even in the same galaxy, the HR 40, just so people know, that Sheila Jackson Lee is proposing in Texas is a bullshit bill. It's a bullshit bill. It's a study. Everyone wants to fucking study marijuana, cannabis legalization. Everyone wants to study reparations. Motherfuckers, there's nothing to study. We know that we're owed money. There's nothing to study. That's just a way to keep this shit delayed as long as possible until we can talk about something else that overshadows Black concerns. That's what they do. That's what the ruling class does to us. Going to your point, though, I agree. 1 million would be more in line with what realistically should be implemented for each person. Would be $1 million. And it's not that they can't do it. They can do it. They can justify everything else. There's not a lot of us in this country. I mean, we're 14% of the population. They can do it. We can send billions of dollars to fund wars every year. We can sure as hell help our own people here on U.S. soil.
Yeah, I agree. Will it happen though? Realistically.
But like I said, can we even get the initial commitment?
I doubt it. Because it would until we disband the Constitution. No, I don't think so.
Do we need? I guess my question for you would be: Do we even need a reparations package to move forward as a people?
No, and I think reparations is almost a counterproductive conversation because of that fact. I would rather have conversations about building tables. That's what I stand on. And when we talk reparations, it almost sets us back 50 years, 100 years. It just it's making us think backwards instead of forwards. And when it's all said and done. But to speak on a little bit just of our value and how much we brought to the country, I know we're kind of wrapping up here, but I'll leave you with this. And this is something I might want your help on in the future. I have a theory that could be a dissertation. It could be a book. It could be a book with multiple volumes. It could be a movie. But Black people are the gold standard, are the new gold standard. We talk about the dollar being the gold standard being stripped from the dollar. We talk about HBCUs and the value that Black people brought to these PWIs. We talk about the media space and what Black people do in media and how they use us as puppets. When we attach ourselves to any damn thing, Twitter, Clubhouse, the podcast industry, the music industry, sports, labor, when we attach Black people to any damn thing, we are the gold standard and we control the media. We just realize that ourselves internally, it'd be a whole of a lot better situation. They know it. That's why they use us. That's why they use us in certain ways. That's why they open up these platforms and market them to our community so we can use them and make them money. They know we're the gold standard. We just don't damn know it. And it goes back to the origins of the body. Where is gold found? Where is gold physically found? We are the gold standard. And I think we just have to wake up and realize it, to sum it up, man. I think the people in my generation, myself and younger, I will keep speaking on this. There's movers and shakers that are younger than me that are teaching me to this day. Like the people that are younger than myself they're showing that, man. We're the gold standard. We got to realize it internally. We got to learn more about ourselves. We got to get back attached to the spirits that we are. You know what I'm saying? Get out of this human mindset, all of this media stuff, all of this collection stuff, physical stuff, cars galore, chains, all this bullshit. Just drop it all, man. Start learning about the origins of ourselves. Get back to the roots of Africa, to the motherland of where we originally came from. Get back connected with God. Get back connected to the spirit, and ignore all the bullshit. Simple as that.
I appreciate the closing, man. Speaking on the spirituality part, I'm actually going to get some people on to sort of bring in the Afro-diasporic experience, because I tell a lot of people we disconnect ourselves from other Black people in Latin America, Africa, Caribbean, and it's done on purpose. It's the attitudes both ways now. I was having a conversation with someone the other day about how people in this African continent view Black Americans here and all this. It's very complicated, but it's been done on purpose to sort of paint people a different way. But the reality is this: Black Americans aren't Blacks on the subcontinent of on the continent of Africa. That experience was taken away from us. I mean, what are we supposed to do about that? I mean, we're still searching those pieces, like you're saying. We're searching for those roots. The Santeria, the Voodoo, the Candomblé in Brazil, all those Shun, all the different Orishas in Latin America, the Caribbean, that were brought over from Nigeria, Yoruba land, the Bantu tribes, like that's our culture. That's our real culture. But there's no connection at all. And even as an atheist, I respect that because I know that that's my heritage and stuff. Like I know that that spiritual system, that's what kept our ancestors, you know, surviving each day. Like I get that. So how do we go from the Orishas in Nigeria to Catholicism, Southern Baptist, white Christianity? How do we go from that to this, you know? And that's what I'm saying, you know, it's just, there's so many different ways you can look at it. But hopefully on this forum and your forum as well, we can sort of merge the two together and learn, you know, generationally, how Black people are really navigating through the world, you know, spiritually, non-spiritually, and globally, financially, economically, and psychologically.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about soaking up information, man. It's about continuing to learn and continuing to search, and not you can get rabbit hole, you know, territory when you start to look into certain things, definitely. But at least just making an attempt to making an attempt at wisdom, you know, making an attempt at growth, making an attempt at change. Unless you are completely comfortable with the things happening around you and in your own life, you know. But if you're not cool with it, man, just stand up, make a change, start smacking some people in the face every now and then. Sometimes it's necessary, man.
I tell you what, man, I appreciate this conversation. I feel like down the road, we're going to need each other more than ever. And we will. I think the problem with echo chambers is that, like, whether I have different intentions than you or whatever, I think we both have very good intentions. And I think that that's enough that we have in common to where we can get a lot done. So let's build on what we can get done, like right now. You know, what we can do is educate ourselves. We can pick up a book and read that book and soak in as much information as possible, you know, and we kind of get to our own conclusions, but we can both agree that we can get that information, share it together, talk to each other, not hate on each other, and promote, you know, what you got going on. Because I know you're a good person, just based on our conversations, and that's what we need to do. Just spread that throughout the community, you know, and just see where it goes.
For sure.
Where
Definitely,
can people
man.
reach you, man? Where can people reach you if they want to get in contact with you?
For sure. As far as social media, I'm on J Clark Real on all platforms, REEL at the end. So J Clark Real on all social media platforms. That's the easiest way to get in contact with me. If we get into like any type of business endeavors or whatever that is, we'll get deeper into it. But J Clark Real, the easiest way to reach me.
Yeah, for sure, man. I like the fact that you can come at things at your angle, and I love that the podcasting, it feels like the podcasting space feels very liberating.
Yeah.
The fact that
definitely.
you can just, you know, have your own platform, you know, how liberating is that? You know, you can express yourself. I mean, this has been like a therapeutic session for me, man. Like I was so damn depressed, man, in the PhD program, and my wife, she was there with me during the depressive stages, man. It's, you know, it takes a toll on you, the family. Everyone's going through it. Everyone can feel it. But man, having this out, just being able to talk about things like real life shit, not this crazy fabricated pop culture stuff all the time. It's just, man, they're real people that have emotions, and just to be able to share this, you know, and reach millions of people, it makes me feel good. And I know it makes you feel good too.
Oh, hell yeah. That's love, man. That's what I like to do, man. I like to be a light. I like to learn. I like to hear people's ideas and just make people feel good, bro. And it doesn't even involve, you know, complimenting them necessarily. It's just hearing them out and listening and being attentive to what they're saying and being able to bounce ideas off each other. So it's like, I love these too, man. That's why I'm in the podcast space. That's why I love public speaking, connecting with other people, sharing ideas. It's so liberating, man. It's truly freedom when you can just get on these platforms and speak, not have to align to certain principles and have people tell you how to speak. That's why I couldn't survive in corporate, man. I couldn't be that guy, man. I couldn't be that guy. You know, I talk a certain way, I move a certain way, you know, I just couldn't conform. But I appreciate you having me though. I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, me too, man. And just for the audience, man, I get kind of riled up early, man. I don't know. It's just, I get so, man, emotional with, especially with these fucking political slime balls, man. I just get so damn emotional, man. I swear. And I don't need to tone it down, but it's just like I need to redirect it maybe in a different way. Cause I'm learning through this podcast experience too. You know, I try to get my guests more to the platform. I don't want to be the one talking most of the time. And I feel like with you, at times, like I definitely didn't allow you to blossom. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think it's because I'm more intimate, you know, with our conversations that we had in the past.
Yeah, and that's why we can have these, man, Kiko, we can talk for hours, man. I ain't gonna lie. But that's why we have these longer conversations, man. I always appreciate them. I appreciate learning from you. I appreciate picking your mind, man. And yeah, we're aligned, brother. So we're gonna do some work in the future for sure. Some more work in the future.
Solidarity, man. See you later. Have a great day, beautiful people. We have Tyler King coming up next to discuss a lot of different issues. Very much a pop culture thing. Joe Rogan, Jimmy Dore, some of these podcasters that are big now, and sort of what they're talking about. He's someone that's actually going to come live in person. And then following him, we have Jared Ball, who's also going to make an appearance on Kiko's Free Thinkers Forum and talk about HBCU, talk about his book some. So we have a lot of cool guests down the road. Please watch our other episodes too. And subscribe to us on all platforms, Spotify, Radio Public, Anchor, Apple, Google, all these different platforms. But salute to everyone and cheers.
Blessings.